isn't it cool that we get an opportunity to give back, and what better way than to take every excuse away from kids. All right. Take every excuse they think about why they can't attend a camp. 95% of the time it's, Coach, I can't afford it. Well, you can afford this one, and man, we'll give you a T-shirt too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Back Ups.
Hey, what's up? I'm Timbo B. Davis. I coach football, and that guy is
Connor B. Fickley, and I coach football.
And that's convenient because this is a football podcast. Today, we have a living legend amongst us, a guy that was coaching when I was a wee youngin' playing here in the state, a guy I looked up to across town. And it was always fun to compete against the Duncan Shackelford coach teams across this state. But I want to welcome our guest today, Duncan Shackelford. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me on. I just wish the clouds would go away. We get a little bit more sunny skies, but besides that, I woke up this morning breathing. You and I were just talking about that, and every time I do that, I feel blessed.
Dude, absolutely. And up here too, this springtime, you just said it. When those clouds open up, we get that sunshine. It's another level of like energy. We get the sunshine, and unfortunately for me, I get the pollen count. So, I get the drippage all the time, Yeah, no, that's absolutely real up here. So we have you on the show for a few reasons. One, you are a wealth of information about football in Alaska life, outdoor life, fishing, you bet. But we're really excited for something that's coming up here in a month, and that is a lineman camp that you're organizing. Can you tell us about that lineman camp? Love to. It was originally proposed to me, and I think I would like to see, say 2015. The pastor of my church, Pastor Todd Macherio, he was an old offensive lineman, and he come up and asked me if I would be willing to think about putting a camp together for the offensive, defensive linemen. At that time, it was just our area. I said, yeah, sure, sounds good. So we used, he's a pastor at Community Covenant Church, and we kind of worked together with them. As far as, when we first started out, we had it in their little gymnasium, and then we'd go in the morning, and then we'd go to Eagle River High School in the afternoon. It was good, but we were only reaching a limited number of young men. And at that time, we charged, I think it was $49 for the camp. And it's 3 days and for basically about 4 hours a day. And we had it in the morning. Well, we weren't getting a lot of kids because a number of kids were going to summer school. It was too far away for a lot of the younger kids to attend that lived in Anchorage. Didn't have that opportunity to get rides or whatever. So in 2017, I talked with Jeff Trotter over at East, and I asked Jeff if we could use the field to put on this camp. And he said, absolutely. And so I got permission over there, and we moved the camp to East High School. That way it'd be more accessible to our inner city kids. And it's just keeps growing. So it's been kind of a cool, it's been good how it's progressed. And in that progression and that growth, we decided in 2016 to waive the fee. It's a free camp. And it was really funny. And speaking with, I'm having a hard time remembering his name. Tim Yeomans?
Tim Yeomans, yes. He goes, Shaq, I've never heard of a free football camp in my life. And I said, well, gosh, I hate to think that, we're being trendsetters up here, but we just bring a few people up, and I go out and raise the money. This year we're looking at
about $5,000 that we're going to have to raise. And we're kind of, I think we're going to meet it. It's been a little difficult this year because obviously the pandemic. A lot of businesses that always just openly gave are finding it really tough this year, and I understand that. But a cool jewel that we're doing this year is I wanted to tie this camp into an old player of mine, Chris Kuper, who played at the University of North Dakota, was an All-American there, and then went on to play 8 years, distinguished years, with the Denver Broncos. And Chris is really excited about it. And I always wanted to get something to him as kind of like his legacy, something that he could feel really good about promoting. And he's very on board with this. I just talked to him today, and he's probably going to come up, him and his wife are going to come up and spend a couple of weeks with his parents up here and get some fishing and good old Alaska stuff in. But he's going to be here, and we're hoping to bring up a defensive line coach also from the Denver Broncos.
Dude, that's awesome. What a labor of love you're putting on for the community.
You know what? Here's the deal. Isn't it cool that we get an opportunity to give back, and what better way than to take every excuse away from kids. All right. Take every excuse they can think about why they can't attend a camp. 95% of the time is, Coach, I can't afford it. Well, you can afford this one, and man, we'll give you a t-shirt too. And so, it's kind of cool. And like I said, we've had, used to be Richard Cundiff, who was a head coach at Texas A&I, or now Texas A&M, Kingsville, for years, was always coming up. I brought Rich Sweeney up, who coached for years in the college ranks, and I coached with them myself. Incredible coaches. We had, we just had, so lucky to get so many good people, and I'm willing to give their time. It's amazing the time people will give you, promise a fishing trip, So, so I have the advantage.
That's a great point. I got to tell you, Alaska is such a, I don't know. I have this chip on my shoulder about people calling it a disadvantage, and I understand we're far away from places that are football hubs. I get that, but what an awesome advantage we have up here. First of all, it's a start of every conversation when you go to the 48. But then the advantage of hey, come up here and we'll take you on a boat fishing. And it just gets you 10 minutes outside of Anchorage and you're in Alaska.
Right.
And I don't know. I think we as coaches can leverage that. And I see you doing that.
Well, Coach, it's awesome to see all the stuff you're doing with the camp. And I kind of want to get a chance to kind of dive into your coaching career here in Alaska. I know when I got the pleasure of playing against you, you were at Chugiak, but you were already had some time under your belt. Would you mind sharing a little bit about where you started and how you got going on in Alaska?
Wow, gosh, I got to think back a little ways. 1985, I came on board with Bill Stearns out at Wasilla High School. And, and I think I had heard a while back that Bill had passed away. And, but Bill had been at Diamond and had been the head coach at Diamond High School. Then he moved out to Wasilla and took the head job at Wasilla High School. I come on fresh out of college, had my degree in special education, and they needed a special ed teacher to start that year. So I started Wasilla and went and saw Bill, and he said, "Hey, I need a JV coach." I said, "Okay." And so that was the start of my career. And I was at Wasilla for 2 years, Palmer for a year, with Coach Wall there when he was there. And then I took a couple of years off, and I took from Alaska, not from football, and I went and took a college job at St. Mary of the Plains College in Dodge City, Kansas. I was down there with Rich Sweeney, and learned why I wanted to be a high school football coach and not a college football coach. So, but it was nice. Got to kind of hone my trade, skills in a whole different environment. And we were just NAIA, but it was a whole different environment than the high school environment. Came back up here, took the defensive coordinator's job under Bruce Shear in 1992, and worked 92, 93, 94 at Chugiak with him. Almost went to a state championship game with them, but that was the years that Buck had those. You'd get these Texas guys, Oklahoma kids that were moving up there, in the military. And Buck always had, he had 20 guys on the sideline, and like 10 of them could have played anywhere in the nation. So, could never make it past Buck. But
real quick before you go on, because for those of you who are younger out there, for the guys that are younger, and for those that maybe I'll say, this could lead us down a crazy rabbit trail, but Buck Nystrom, tell me a little bit about who this guy is.
Oh my gosh. One of my dear, dear, dear friends. And Buck was always, wow. Buck's like this 1 in a million person you get to meet and hang out with. And he got more stories than you could shake a stick at. I mean, he was a hunter and a trapper. He moved up here from Minnesota, I don't know how many years ago, lived up in Salcha, just past where the moose and the caribou hang out. And he coached kids. And I mean, I learned so much from him just listening to how he would motivate and coach his kids. And towards the end of his life, him and I became fishing buddies, and we'd go down, hang out in Yakutat. Always we'd go down there for Thanksgiving, and it'd be me and him and Jamie Mayo and Scott Miner, just the whole crew go down there and fish steelhead, and everybody would bring a meal. So I always brought Thanksgiving meal, and then Scotty would bring like ribeye steaks, and Miner would bring, not Miner, but Mayo would bring something else incredible. Buck would bring duck soup. I mean, seriously, duck soup.
Love
and it was so bad one time, we just told him, you don't bring any more meals. We'll take care of you. And, but he was a card, back in the years when we used to send videotapes, scouting tapes and stuff like that. It was absolutely nothing. If I was playing Buck, I knew that I was going to get a wolf trapping video. That was, what do you got? So I never even pay attention. And he would always go, oh, Shaq, I'm so sorry. I sent you the wrong video. Oh gosh. We used to laugh about that. Yeah, he was quite a coach. And, until Rod passed him up, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's number 2. I think Bruce is number 3.
Yep.
And, I know I got to put Galen in there somewhere. I don't know.
He's got to be up there. So
Yeah.
We'll keep rolling. You're at Chugiak at this point, and that's where you and Shear's the head coach. And
right.
You're DC, and your guys are.
Yeah, he made me the DC, and so I had we had some very, very successful seasons, but not as successful as Bruce and I would have both liked. So after that, in 1994. Dan Stevens was the head football coach at Diamond, and retired after they won the state championship. And so I was asked to apply for the job, and I did, and I got the job. And I was at Diamond for 10 years. And, those first years as a head coach are always the toughest. And you find out really quick whether you are cut out to being a head coach, and you will second guess that decision a ton. I remember Rich Sweeney calling me up and congratulating me on getting the job. And he said, Shaq, I just want you to know that life as you know it is over with. And he was so totally correct.
Yeah.
And, we had some tough first years, but we came back and made a trip to the state finals against Service in 98, and then won it in 2000, 2001. And we made my 10 years. We went to the state playoffs 7 out of 10 years. So, had some great kids roll through. And, I'm not being humble when I tell you that I had nothing to do with that. I could have coached out of a lawn chair with those state championships. There's some of the best athletes. Had 10 great years there, and then 36 years total coaching.
Jeez, 36.
Yeah. So one of those years that stands out to me, obviously, was 2000. That was my senior year. You guys ruined our homecoming. Thanks. No, you guys are pretty dang good. But that was not the year that you guys start 4-4 the following season, correct?
The following year, we ended up the 2000 team, the one with Kuper's on that team, and Kennard Walker and all the boys. That was the first time Alaska team won 11-0. The first time that we were nationally ranked, and we beat some pretty good ball clubs that year.
Did Bishop Gorman come to Alaska for that season?
Bishop Gorman came to Alaska. We beat him in the hurricane. It was nuts. Had to beat him to really appreciate.
They weren't ready for a hurricane and the muddy diamond marsh.
Ready for that.
These guys, there was 4 guys on that team that went to either University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or Reno, and they were just flat studs. And but they were freezing. They were freezing their rear ends off. We loved it. That was the time we'd film up on top of Diamond High School.
Yeah.
To get the whole big field shot. And Bill passed us when we scored our final touchdown to win the game. Jumped up in the air, and he almost got blown off the roof by a gust of wind. I mean, it was blowing 50, 60 miles an hour. It was nuts. So yeah, that was and the following year we ended up going 4-4, and actually our expectations were to go 11-0 again, because we turned all the studs that were the year before that, the Brett Dettons, Brandon Joseph, Jason Simmons, and almost, except for Chris, our whole line came back. So we were just loaded again. But as you know, not everything goes the way you predict it in football. And injuries, I mean not little like hurt my pinky, coach. It's like twisted ankles and bum knees and broken shoulders, collarbones. And it was like every time you turned around, I didn't have the same starting backfield from game 1 until the final game, the state championship game at the end of the year. And we made it in at 4-4.
Jeez.
It was nuts.
But not only that, I believe, was that a season you guys won in Juneau? It was one of the.
We lost. That was what we like to call the travel year. We flew. Well, we anticipated this. We flew to Lathrop because I like flying to Fairbanks, and then we turned around the next weekend and flew to Hawaii, and then we flew down to Juneau. Lost 10-6 or something like that. Mac fumbled on the 2-yard line going in with a minute left, and then we had to turn around because we were the 4th seed and they were the number 1 seed. We had to fly to Juneau 2 weeks later. So we flew just about like a Division I program everywhere.
No kidding. Who did you guys play in Hawaii that year?
We played Waianae over on the leeward side in Oahu. We were warned, just, you guys need to like not be out at night at this area and blah, blah, and blah, blah.
Gotcha.
And you know what? some of the nicest people I've ever been around. They just like laid out the red carpet for us. We played a Saturday game at Lathrop, got on the plane, flew back. We practiced Monday, and they were cool enough. They sent us film, and so we had a practice and initial film breakdown, and coaches stayed late getting our, playbooks together and stuff, what we were going to do and all that good stuff. And then we ended up flying over, I think. So we were gone Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, and came back the following Sunday. So
yeah, well, that's nice. At least you got a little bit of time to acclimate. I know when we went down, it was my senior year playing at West. Yeah, it was. We were there for a week, and I don't think any of us still felt acclimated when it came to game time.
No, it was brutal, and we stayed at this place. It was an old plantation, and hot, really hot rooms.
I can imagine.
Probably played at the most beautiful stadium you've ever seen. If you can ever pull up Waianae's football field, it sits right on the water. Oh, yeah. So like if on the visitor side, you could throw a rock into the ocean, and it's beautiful. And there, as the sun was setting, we played at 7:00 that evening, and the sun was setting over the ocean, and like my guys are going, wow.
Probably distracted.
Hey, we got a ball game, boys. Let's go.
So, Coach Shack, am I looking at the right photo here? Is that it?
Yeah. You sure are.
That's up there. There's some fields in Alaska that might be some of the most scenic fields in the nation. But I'll tell you what, I'll go to Waianae and play a game there. Goodness.
No, it's cool. And like I said, the people were just fantastic. They were, they just, like I said, treated our kids with so much respect.
We've talked Diamond. We've talked Chugiak. What I want to know a little bit is about your time at East and how that's been assisting. That's a different clientele than Chugiak and Diamond. And I just want to hear some of your experiences. I haven't really got to chop it up with you about your time at East a whole lot. And East, for those of you listening, East is our crosstown rival, very similar in our demographics. A lot of respect between both programs. It's East and West, right? And so, Shaq, you after Chugiak took some time, and it wasn't long before you're wearing that red, white, and blue over there across town.
Yeah, I had no intentions. It was a good friend of mine passed away, and he was a special ed teacher that worked with kids with autism. And so Mr. Spinella, who had been my principal at Chugiak for a year before he took the head job at East, he called me up, and then Megan Hatswell, who was the activities principal, said, hey, he goes, Shaq, can you help us out for a couple of weeks? And I went, yeah, absolutely, no problem. So I went over and took this new program, SLC program, and it was really, it was pretty amazing. It was so big. It was like totally encompassing. There's guys walking around the school, way bigger than me, way taller, way wider, got arms the size of my legs. And I was just in awe of these kids. And, well, it took about 2 weeks, and I got a visit from Jeff Trotter, and Jeff said, yeah, I hear you're going to be hanging out here the rest. And I told him I'd work the rest of the year. He goes, well, why don't you come coach football? And I said, well, okay. It interested me, So anyway, I did. And the 2 weeks turned into 4 years. And Sam was just the coolest. He's amazing. Sam he'd always go, are you leaving? And I'd go, well, you know what? My son's still in high school. I'm kind of down with hanging out if it's okay. He goes, I'm not looking if you're not leaving. And I said, okay. So that's the way that kind of went around. But coaching with Jeff and the guys over there was as much fun as I've had coaching in a long time. Reason being, number one, I wasn't a head coach, But what it allowed me to do was end my career the way I should have started my career. And that was learning that caring for my kids is the most important thing that we can do as coaches. And, the old thing about, I don't understand why you can't win state championships every year at East High School. Well, then I found out. The issues that I think probably we have similar issues between East and West, and probably with a lot of other high schools too. But like you said, our demographics are really similar. And found out that I had to care way more about everything else than football. And I had been progressing to this point from about 2000, when we started really turning things around and winning state championships and winning a lot of football games, stuff like that, that the more I cared about the kids and less what my record was, that we got a lot more accomplished. And that was about the time I had started doing a lot of reading with, De La Salle, Concord De La Salle in California, what that staff was doing about teaching about the we instead of the me, and teaching about holding kids accountable, but making kids respectful in what they do and their purpose, and about playing for something besides them. And so once I really 100% adopted that mentality as I progressed into East High School, and this is hats off to Trotter, because not only is he a great football coach, but he listens. And he told me, he goes, you're in the school. We had Matt Widoff in the school, and we were the academic deans. And when I got there that first semester, Matt and I got together and we went down the list of 95 ball players that we had, and like 72 were ineligible at that time. And we went, wow, we have to change. There needs to be a paradigm shift somewhere, and we have to do it. And so we, it was tough. The first semester was tough, but slowly got guys on board with study halls and taking around weekly progress reports. And the teachers loved it. The teachers would say to me, I wish football was 9 months long, because I get so much more in my kids in the classroom. And it was really very moving to me, because I saw a lot of kids do way more than I ever expected, and really enjoy, I think, football a whole lot more, because we made it more about them instead about any of the other things, how their growth was going to be, how they were going to be become better young men. And so, yeah.
I probably tell this to every coach that comes on here that I know, that I'm friends with. And I know most of the community here in Anchorage. Anchorage is so unique right now that I really authentically root for 7 other teams in this town, except for one night of the year. One night of the year, I want to beat the brakes off East. You guys have had us last few years. But it's like, I just see great things happening in our community with the sport of football. What you just said about the teachers saying, I wish football was 9 months long. I mean, you're like, almost gave me chills. I mean, that's why we're doing this. And when you said, man, I got to tell you, man, that was inspirational. That little bit right there just got me fired up, because I think that's the most important thing any coach can ever learn, is the quicker you get to the caring for the kids first, the more you enjoy the game. And you make that a priority, Oh man, that's wisdom, brother. I appreciate it. That's good stuff.
It so echoes, I was always in charge of doing the pregame, and we'd always pick a topic, and I'd always pick a topic. And then I would speak about that topic for 10 or 15 minutes. And then we do the same thing that De La Salle would do. We would do commitment cards where everybody writes their commitment to whatever part of the whether it be the staff, to the guy playing next to him, to the whole team. And we'd write those commitment cards, and then I'd make them give those commitment cards back to me, and I would give them to Coach Trotter, and he would read. Coach Trotter would read through every one of them, and find out where they're at mentally. Before a game, when I go in there and I would deliver my pregame, where they're at, and I know, like, oh, we're winning today in a big way, or I might go, I don't know where their mental's at today, but it helps keep kids focused and track, and that's what we call our focus meeting. So.
That's awesome, Coach. Like I said, the whole entire, putting players first, and I've been fortunate to, like I said, work with coaches like you and Coach Davis, and a lot of the other great ones we have here in the state. And I'm also kind of curious. You said you've got a chance to coach Alaska football here, throughout the '90s and then early 2000s, and then even up to today. And it's a lot of football to cover, and there's been some changes up here, obviously, in the sense. What do you think are some of the biggest changes in football, whether it be, skill level or the kids in general, getting a chance to be at Chugiak, Diamond, and East? What have you seen throughout the years that have kind of transitioned or changed in your mind?
But talking to other coaches from around the nation, it's the changing kids. I really think it's the biggest change affecting not only football, but other sports. Being an old wrestling guy and being an old track and baseball person, you see numbers declining all the time, all over the place. In places that were predominantly huge, and everybody said, well, the last year's been really weird. I agree. The COVID thing is definitely I think just the way kids are changing, their attitudes. It's almost like sometimes kids are really afraid of hard work and afraid of sacrifice because they still haven't found out that there's things more important than they are. We keep seeing every year that, the attitude basically of what you going to do for me instead of what can I do for you? What is the most important thing? And I ask them that question. What is it, Coach? I'm not telling you. You've got to find that out for yourself. And so I did that for 4 years. I never told them until you find out what it is. And if you tell me, and you're right, I'll tell you. So when I spoke in 2018, spoke at our banquet, and I said, it was hilarious. You remember those E.F. Hutton commercials?
Oh, yeah.
The E.F. Hutton, so I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you right now what the one thing is. And every kid was just like, because I've been preaching it for so long. I said, the one thing is when you make that guy next to you all state, and you have nothing but pride in that. I said, when you make that person better, then you've discovered the one thing, that you're not the most important person here. And it takes 11 people thinking like that to develop that team. I said, the Navy SEALs have been doing it for years. But the guy next to you is worth dying for. Well, we probably won't go to that extreme. But the guy next to you needs to be all state, and you're going to help him get there. And he, in turn, is going to help you get there. And when you do that, man, you just have this camaraderie. You can't be beat.
Yeah.
You can't be beat. And so that's why I think the real impetus trying to instill is teaching these guys that, there's more to life than you. I think I got out at the right time. I got out to where I felt like the kids at East really responded, really worked well, did a great job. But, I got tired. And when when I was real young, I asked a great coach, Paul Hayden, who I learned a lot about defensive football from. I asked Paul, I said, Paul, when do you think you're going to retire? Because like Paul's like 70 or something, still on the football field running around. And he goes, Shaq, it's really easy to know when you need to retire. I said, tell me. Because when you don't want to go to practice, the kids understand that, and they don't want to be there either. And when my son graduated from high school, it was adios amigos. So, but it was been a good trip, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's really interesting you say that, because like I said, even for myself, only being, removed age-wise from these kids, only 10 years or less, I feel like I'm so, like I was raised differently and how to go about, talking to my football coach and doing everything. So I thought it was really interesting to hear you say that, a lot of similarities of how I feel, and I'm much, much younger in the sense of, coaching experience and being around, athletes and stuff. So I thought a lot of what you said is what I see too. And yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I hope it changes.
Absolutely.
I hope maybe I'd like to see something, but I don't think so. I think it's just going to get more difficult. I think it's going to add to a lot of burnout for coaches, especially younger coaches. So
I think I got to think that it really starts with the coaches, and what you're saying is it's going to take, we're fighting a countercultural. It's countercultural to come to serve rather than be served. That's not a cultural thing. And we actually had our coaches clinic we just had last week. One of my buddies down that spoke, Brian Hamilton at Texas State, made a point that all our kids are child actors. They've been, their whole life has been filmed. Their whole life has been documented, and they're trying to make connections with people just like child actors. Some of the reasons that we find that they feel so isolated is that you can't make connections with people on the other side of the camera.
Right.
Connection happens talking face to face. Obviously we have some challenges with COVID. I just got to, again, double down on thanking you and being grateful for this. Cause I think podcasts and I think words of from people who have done this, been in this business, the people business.
Yeah.
I think that we need to hear these messages more and more. And here's the cool part. I'm going to kind of bring it full circle here. Money where your mouth is. You ain't retired, bro. You are still changing lives, doing a camp with NFL athletes, making it free. And that's Tim Yeoman at the clinic told you that ain't common. So you're still doing uncommon things for kids.
I never thought of it that way. Somebody does that, but
yeah.
Cool. Like I said, we'll set a new standard.
And I think it's, dude, I appreciate the hell out of you. We're wrapping up here on time. We probably could talk for many, many, many hours about football, especially you open up the cans of Buck Nystrom, Bruce Shear, and everything of the like.
I'm finishing my book here, probably getting some things going on that, but it'll be coming out hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months. It's not like I'm depending on it to make any money or anything, but I need to, I'm doing a lot of the self-editing myself, just because an editor's $7,500 I don't have. So, but it'll be about 14 chapters. And like I said, I'm wrapping up the last couple. And I think it'll be interesting. It's basically a compilation of what Tim talked about at your meeting about changing boys into men and trying to lead them down a good path athletically and socially. We wrap the spiritually in there and whatever else you got, but about helping them along. So. The book's going to be called Life is an Option, and a little play on words in there. And, but it is about an option. It's about that option of not willing to work with people or the willingness to help people help themselves. And so that's kind of the way the direction the book is. So,
what are the dates on camp coming up here?
Dates for the Alaska Solstice Lineman's Camp with Chris Kuper, June 21 through 23. The times will be, check-in time starts at 2:45. We will try to be prompt and on the field by 3 o'clock. We will be done about 7:15 to 7:30. We will have, joining Chris this year and is longtime friend and guy that's worked with me for 20 some years, Scott Phelps. And he always comes up and he does a speed, quickness, agility part, which, always for our linemen, it's a good thing. So anyway, so June, it will be 3 o'clock to 7:15. And we will hopefully see a whole lot of people there this year.
That's the Alaska Solstice Lineman Camp, June 21st through the 23rd at East High School. It's free. Is there any pre-registration or is it just $245?
Yes, you can go. Matter of fact, that's something I forgot to get for you. I think Coach Keaton, Homer, he did a website for us.
Okay.
And so I'll have that. And as soon as I get that, I will get that to you, Tim, so you can get that out to all the coaches. But we will have our website, and on there will be registration forms. We've already pre-registered like 12 kids. We've never had that,
Awesome.
So I think it's going to be, our goal is to be over 100 kids this year. And that would be awesome for the state.